YouTube studio's taking a long time to get started tonight. Okay, I got it. So we're live with another. I'm babbling. We're live with another episode of BS Busters. Thank you for joining us. This is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters. I'm glad that people could join us tonight. Or if you're watching it in the future, I'm glad that people in the future could watch it today. But without much ado, I'll have my co-host introduce themselves, and then we'll dive into these topics. Go ahead.
Hello, this is Kanoshi Abominito, and here to say, Bethesda, you're dead to me, but then again, you were never really alive to me to begin with. So whatever.
It's a wash. It's even. This is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters. Let's get to these topics. So, we're covering the following 3 topics. We didn't have 5 tonight because I just didn't feel like diving into the bullshit that is some of the other stuff going on in gaming. I don't feel like talking about the Intellivision Amico and the scam where they've declared that they're financially insolvent and carrying a lot of debt. And people who wanted to get their refunds, they can't even afford to give them their refunds. And yet, just a few months ago, even by like last year, the same time last year, people were paying money. People were collecting a salary. People on the executive board of Intelligent Amico were collecting a salary, plus lending their own personal money to the company at exorbitant interest rates and paying themselves back, plus the interest rates. So they were stealing from themselves, really.
Yeah.
Or I should say they were stealing from their investors. You know, shit like that. But anyway, yeah, I didn't feel like covering that. So instead we're covering Games Fest and all the surrounding conferences, how we felt about that. Starfield looking kind of underwhelming.
Looking like ass. Looking
Well,
like ass. I'm gonna cannot say
it doesn't look like ass. It's not like that. It's not like when Bethesda first showed Fallout 4, and it's like this only looks like slightly better than Skyrim. It does look like graphically it looks good, but even in the game, you could tell that game was chugging.
Yeah, that game was struggling hard. It was a hard. That game was having a hard day.
You know, like I don't know why this game is struggling because they only had to focus on like they literally only have to make this for PC.
Yeah. On the Xbox. Gotta work on
Well,
the
the Xbox Series X uses the x86 architecture, so that's still PC architecture. Yeah. Literally, they only have to make one SKU of this game and just do minor port code changes to get it to run on the Xbox Series X. So there's no excuse for this game running like shit. But I guarantee when it comes out, it's going to be a buggy piece of shit. And of course, our final topic will be about why developers need a union. Now, of course, we also will cover the normal things we cover on Wednesdays, which is unpopular opinions and all that other fun shit. But let's get to it. So I guess we should begin with top. What do you think? What did you think about all the shows? Your best show, worst show? Did you care at all about any of these shows, etc., etc.?
I mean, I'll just go by announcements because I didn't watch any of the shows. I think Xbox probably had the best showing. PC gaming show, I'm sure for the most part, was just a reiteration of what happened at the Xbox show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. And Summer's Game Fest was okay, I guess. There were a couple things that looked interesting, but
I was underwhelmed by Games Fest, personally.
Yeah.
I was like, you basically, Jeff Keighley's like, we're taking the place of E3, and you come out and do some shit that even E3 would have been like, this is underwhelming. Continue. Sorry.
And then Capcom just had updates to pre-existing games, so they didn't really have any big I mean, of course they had Street Fighter 6, but that was announced during the PlayStation show. So um
That's
so
fair.
I mean, but yeah, but yeah, the best showing was Xbox, but the problem again with all these announcements, most of the stuff ain't coming out till next year. Uh, and at least how I feel, it doesn't seem like we got a lot of stuff, a lot of big stuff coming out in the fall or the holiday season. But or at least the stuff I want to play, it's all coming out next year.
Yeah, that's true. Like, why do they keep on announcing shit that's not coming out till 2023? Like, I don't care
Yeah,
now. Shit. I want shit I can play this year. You know?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
stop telling me about some shit. Well, it's coming out next year. Then I don't care. Go away. You bastards.
yeah,
Anyway, that's my own personal opinion. That's just how I feel. Um, but
yeah,
anyway, my thoughts. I thought the Games Fest was underwhelming. I thought Sony's thing had some interesting news, like the reveal for RE4, which remake, which I know was one of the worst kept secrets, but I'm just glad they're making a remake of one of the best Resident Evils of all time. Hopefully they don't fuck it up because it is Capcom, and they fucked up RE3's remake too. So you know,
yeah.
it's one of those things where I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be good. I don't know. You know. So, but that's my own personal opinion. You know, that's that's my own personal opinion about the situation. I know some people will disagree. Anyway, so yeah, I thought Xbox's thing was. I mean, I think Xbox had the biggest surprise, which was they're porting the Persona games over to PC and the
Yeah,
Xbox. And I know Nintendo fans were like, "Yeah, that's terrible." I'm like, "Look, man, Sega probably asked for some cash money to bring those games over because Sega owns Atlas now." And Microsoft's like,
yeah,
"We've got more money than God. We'll break you off a piece." They opened up their wallet and pulled out that cash clip with all those bennies, and they peeled off some bennies and handed it to Sega. Nintendo ain't doing that.
yeah,
Nintendo is not paying out money to get extra services. Because
yeah.
Nintendo, Nintendo's like we do not negotiate with terrorists. That's Nintendo.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
Microsoft and
exactly.
Sony are like, yeah, sure, yeah, we'll pay. Just do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, we're not paying. We're not paying. You know, I mean, those games are popular enough that they should be able to sustain themselves on their own. But
What, Persona? Well, I mean, the thing is
yeah,
that Persona has always, even though Persona has grown, it's still a niche IP. Like
yeah,
Persona doesn't have Final Fantasy numbers or
yeah,
Legend of Zelda or Mario. It's not one of those games. Persona is lucky if it hits 5 million. you know
yeah,
like that's amazing. Like really, like if it hits 2 million, it's like, oh, this made a lot of money. So that's kind of the issue with Persona, is that it's just so niche that even though it's grown, the niche has grown, it's still very niche, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like personally, I like the fact, because that keeps Persona from getting watered down into bullshit.
yeah,
You know, like so many other RPGs. It's like, oh, we're gonna make this so it's popular to people who don't like playing RPGs. So we're gonna strip out features that make it an RPG in order to make it more appealing to people who don't like to play RPGs. Which is the equivalent. You know what that's the equivalent of? That's the equivalent of saying, "Hey, I want chocolate cake, but I don't want it. I don't want chocolate in my chocolate cake."
Yeah.
Like that defeats the
Yeah.
purpose of having a chocolate cake if you don't want chocolate in the chocolate cake. Taking role playing elements out of a role playing game kind of doesn't make it a role playing game anymore.
Yep.
You know, and that's where a lot of RPGs, RPG franchises fuck up. Is that they start stripping out features. They start stripping out features in order to make them more appealing to you know, a broader audience. Which pisses off the core audience that used to play that game. They're like, "Come on, man, why'd you do that?" So, but yeah, so that was kind of a coup for Xbox, and I think I really liked the. I liked the PC game show. It wasn't just a one for one for what Xbox was doing. There was also shit that was like specifically just on PC that was pretty cool. I like Devolver Digital had my favorite show because they just leaned it.
Yeah.
I think Devolver Digital and the PC gaming show had the best shows because Devolver Digital show was also trying to be entertaining, like weirdly entertaining.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
PC gaming show, they were in on the joke. You know, like the
Yeah.
opening of it, like, oh, they're in on the joke too. They know this is some bullshit. Um, I think Sony took themselves too seriously. I think Games Fest was like Jeff Keighley desperately trying to push that rock up a hill like Sisyphus. And
Yeah.
it's like, dude, just stop. Come at it from a different angle. Um, yeah, that's about it. That's all. That's all. You know. I know there were other indie. I know they had like Indie Fest and Feel Good Fest, like the games that are all like not really all that violent or about feelings and stuff like that. I'm not. I'm okay with that. I saw a few of those games. They look really cool, but I didn't watch enough to really give my impressions. So enough said. You have any thoughts?
Um. No, that's. I mean, that's pretty much it.
All right.
I just.
So do you have a
I was.
winner
I was.
of the fest or a
Uh.
loser?
I guess the biggest loser is Capcom because they should have just did a press release and.
Yeah,
Um.
yeah.
I
Because they
think
didn't have
the
anything
biggest winner.
interesting to show.
I think the biggest winner is the Xbox, mainly for the Persona announcements.
Yeah,
At least for me, but yeah.
it means I don't have to. I might be able to get rid of my PS. Well, I'm not going to get rid of my PS4 because there's some good PS4 exclusive games that I want to play, but I haven't even like. I occasionally turn on my Switch. I've turned on my PS4 like 3 times since I bought it.
I probably won't get rid of my PS4 until I get a PS5. Then I'll get rid of it.
Normally I would agree with you. Is the PS5 backwards compatible with the PS4?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay, all right. Then I might do that. Maybe. Maybe. I'll think about it. But anyway, yeah, I have a thing about selling my consoles even if I'm not using them, you know. But that's my own personal opinion. You can do whatever you want. Um,
Yeah.
but to each his own. So I agree. I agree. The Sony press conference. the Sony press conference was a little bit underwhelming. I think Capcom, they could have had a better conference if instead of, because we already know Street Fighter 6 is going to have a pretty good fighting system. If they had showed with the
Yeah,
single player, because it looks like the single player mode is you going around Metro City, getting into fights, doing stuff, and I'm like, this is interesting. You've actually moved the single player for Street Fighter forward instead of the same shit over and over and over again with minor variations that they've been doing for years. So, oh well. Um, but here's the irony: Capcom is moving their fighting series forward. Nintendo is moving their fighting series back in terms of single player content. That's
yeah,
embarrassing.
that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. That's how it's going.
They're like, we're gonna have a battle mode, and we're like, you go around Metro City doing stuff. I mean, that sounds awesome. And you look at Smash Brothers, and their single player is just, it's a board game. Get the fuck out of here. Sorry. Actually, no, I can say that because the people who would normally be irate to me saying how shit that single player is aren't here anymore, so I can say it.
Yeah,
Nintendo single player for Smash Brothers is shit. It's been shit since the fourth game, and it's just gotten worse. Um, I mean, it's a little. Well, no, it's a little bit better on the Switch, but it's still not great.
yeah,
And I stand by that. Like, I don't want anyone. Oh, well, it's not that bad. It is bad. And I know what some people say. Well, why would you play a fighting game with a single player? Because I mean, since home console games started to get started, fighting games had at least halfway decent single player.
yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, you saw the shit that happened to what was the name of it? Soul Calibur when they had that shitty ass single player. Remember that shit?
What happened exactly? I don't follow Soul Calibur
Soul
a
Calibur
ton.
1, or Soul Edge, the very first game, had a fairly decent single player. Soul Calibur 1 had a great single player. Soul Calibur 2 had a little bit less, but still really fucking great single player. Soul Calibur 3 single player was a step backwards. Soul Calibur 4 single player was a step back, was a like around the same level of 3. Soul Calibur 5 single player was a fucking joke. The only playable character, like typically speaking, Soul Calibur single player is like this, okay? You have the standard arcade mode where you pick your character and you play through their thing. Then at the end, you beat the boss or whatever, depending on whatever difficulty. You get like a little still that shows their ending, right? Then you have like the Weapon Master mode or Soul Master mode or whatever, where basically you play this huge scenario with all this different shit going on, right? Like you have fights that have conditions where it's like, hey, you've been poisoned, and so your health is constantly going down, and you have to fight like a gauntlet of enemies, and your health doesn't replenish. So it's a test on how efficient you are at fighting enemies and getting ring outs and stuff like that. Shit
Yeah,
like that. Or if you fall to the ground, a bomb is on you. If you fall to the ground, you'll explode, and it'll either kill you or do massive amounts of damage. Like shit like that. And that's really good because not only does it hone your skills, but you can earn new outfits and new weapons for the characters that you're playing as. Soul Calibur 5 had none of that. Soul Calibur 5 had a single player that you played as a made up character that they were pushing really hard who sucked. And the arcade mode was pared down to a tremendous amount. Like, it was like you could tell that this game was made on a fucking budget. A small one. And I'm like, Namco Bandai, I know you fucking people have money. I know you have money.
yeah,
You know, like, there's some companies, it's like, oh, they didn't have the money. Like the people who make Skullgirls. That's an indie studio. You know they ain't got the money to be doing a whole bunch of shit.
yeah,
They're successful, but they aren't like, we can do a whole bunch of shit successful. There is no excuse for Namco Bandai stripping out, like giving you that bare bones of a Soul Calibur experience. Other than they're just being cheap. It's like, oh well, I'm just gonna be racist. I mean, not racist. I'm just gonna be cheap. That's all it
Yeah.
is. I'm just, I'm just cheap. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on this shit. What's wrong with you? You know, like every other game, even 3 and 4, which kind of had more lackluster single player experiences, still had something there. Not this shit. It's kind of like how how Smash 4 single player was like shit, and Nintendo fanboys were like, "Well, it's because Sakurai." And the way I feel about it is, I don't give a fuck if Sakurai's feelings were hurt. You pay $60 for a game in a franchise, you expect that franchise to have certain uh, features.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't have those features, you have the right as a consumer to be mad. Like, I'm not mad that people who played Street Fighter V were pissed at the state of that game when it launched. It was unacceptable. And they were charging people
Yeah.
$60 for that game. It's not like they were saying it's 30 right now and you're essentially playing like the tournament, the special Evo tournament edition of this game. Which, if they had marketed it like that, I guarantee you some people would have bought that game and not been mad about it. Like, well, I can see it's missing features because they put it out for Evo. That's stupid in terms of business sense because the vast majority of people who are playing Street Fighter are casuals. Like, why are you catering to people who only make up less than 5% of the people who are going to buy your game? That's stupid. That's bad business. But, whatever. Um, anyway, that's just my opinion. You have any thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
No. No.
All right. So yeah. Next topic, Starfield.
Oh
Um,
man, that camera. Like I said yesterday in my cast, that camera looked like it was on an old, maintained rig, or like an old rig, and you could hear the creaks as the camera turned. It's just so, it's just so jittery.
you can see it. You can see it chugging. You can like sometimes you can see a game running in a demo where they're showing like actual gameplay footage, and you can see because the PC game show had some games where I saw it running. I'm like, man, that game is struggling to run on this hardware. Like you can tell that it's not very polished. But the issue is that a lot of those games that are like they're showing have been in development for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. They haven't quite reached that point where they start doing the finishing touches on polishing it up. This game's been in development for 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
No excuses.
Wait,
Well,
did
I
they,
mean,
did they really announce this game 10 years ago?
no, it's been in development for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
They announced it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because that's how Bethesda. But Bethesda is a little bit different than other companies. Bethesda has their main team, okay, and let's say hypothetically speaking, their main team is working on Fallout 4, okay. Fallout 4's main content gets done. That main team started working once the main shit was done on Fallout 4. That main team went over and started working on Starfield. Okay, so let's say 60% of their staff, 60-70% of their staff started working on Starfield, prototyping it, getting like doing the starting development on it. The people who were left behind did the DLC. They were doing Cascadia and fucking Nuka World and Settlers and all that shit.
Yeah.
And so this game has been in development for like between 10 and 8 years.
Yeah.
There is no excuse for a game that has been in development for almost, at this point they said 10 years, double digits, to look like this running on hardware. Except for the fact that Bethesda is really bad at coding. Like you play a Bethesda, like if you play Fallout 4, there's like you have to download patches so that, because this is how shit Bethesda is at coding. There's parts of Fallout 4 where you can go and like Like you go and like explore certain areas, and they literally punish you. Like if you go to certain areas, you get punished for like if you go to certain areas, it's so poorly optimized, and the pathing is so shit, and the loading is so shit, the load order is so shit that your machine starts using up massive amounts of resources because they refuse to optimize how they code stuff.
Yeah. So I expect a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, a lot of people wanting their refunds. This game will sell like 80 bajillion copies.
I think
And the
it'll
shareholder and the shareholders will be like, hurrah! But yet, on the other side, there'll be people asking for refunds. There'll be people screaming about, you just need to wait. They'll patch it. They'll save it. Just be patient.
it'll get better.
And,
Well, I
you'll
mean,
have that.
you never buy Bethesda games at the beginning of the when they first launch. You wait a year. You wait a year until all the bugs. Well, not all. The biggest bugs have been identified and patched, and the modding community kind of fixes a lot of Bethesda shit. You never buy Bethesda games at launch ever. I here's what I think will happen when Starfield launches. I think it's going to sell better than Fallout 76, obviously. I think it might sell as well as Fallout 4. No, I don't think it's because it's a new IP, and despite Bethesda's name, I don't think it's gonna sell. Especially if it's really buggy and glitchy, I don't think it's gonna sell. Because people are tired of games coming out that are like fantastically bugged out. Like people are tired of that shit, and I can't say I blame them. You know. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
people
would
are
you
tired of
would you
me.
want to spend, 60, 70, $80 plus the DLC on a game that you couldn't even play?
Oh no, definitely not. This game's gonna be $70. So
What Starfield? They told you it's going to be
yeah,
70?
probably.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I yeah, I'm kind of like I'm a little I'm a little iffy about that. But that's my own personal opinion. Anyway, anything else you want to say before we move on to the next topic? About Bethesda's
Um,
Starfield is looking kind of underwhelming.
the scale of the game is kind of frightening, just because it's like you're gonna say, "Oh, we got like thousands of planets, we got hundreds of systems," and it's kind of like, well, I mean, is there gonna be really anything to do?
Yeah, and if
Because
but oh no, sorry, go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
and the problem is, a lot of these games are like super big, so but there's like nothing to do in them half the time when they become too big because
It'll
they
suffer
forgot.
from a Breath of the Wild problem. Look at this huge
Yeah, it's like,
world,
well,
but there's lots and lots of nothing in it.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I would rather have a carefully curated adventure. Like, I mean, the problem with Bethesda is that they're always trying to get bigger and not realizing that it's not. There's some things where size does matter. And I could use some zing. I could make a sex joke and make a zing, but I'm not going to. There's some things where the size of something really does matter. But in games, I would rather have one really well made city that's well developed and has a lot of layers and depth to it than having a huge country that you can explore, but there's only like three cities and most of them, like all of them basically feel the same, and maybe a few villages, and between all of that is just lots and lots of nothing.
yeah.
Like I would rather have one huge city or maybe two huge cities with a lot of verticality and depth that feel different from one another than a whole bunch of nothing. And oh, we have all this stuff. Yeah, but there's nothing here. You know,
Yeah.
or nonsensically built areas like habitations. Like in Bethesda, you play Skyrim and you go to a town, and you go to the capital of Skyrim, which is Solitude, which is supposed to be the seat of power of this large country. It's not like heavily populated, but it's got a decent amount of people there. You've got like
Yeah.
14 houses, maybe between 14, 17 houses. And the only people who own homes are people who are business owners and the wealthy.
Yeah.
The capital of a massively important province only has 17 houses.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That you can visit, or 17 houses in total, like the
17
other
houses.
houses are just
You can go inside of them. I mean,
like,
only like okay, 17 houses and the population of the capital city of this massive important province is like 30 people. And 5 of them don't even live in the city. It's like the guy who runs the stables and the farm. And his family.
wow. So you're saying it doesn't have at least like decoration houses, like some kind of like
No.
backdrop, like
It's
invisible wall
Bethesda.
where
It's
there's more
Bethesda.
houses, but
There's a reason that when The Witcher 3 came out, people were like, this is fucking amazing. Because you go to the city of Novigrad in Witcher 3 and it feels like a fucking city.
yeah. Yeah. And not to mention, the people within the towns or even the city, they feel like they're living because they're doing stuff. I think their behavior changes depending upon the day, time of day too.
And the events of the game, because certain events have world-changing effects in The Witcher 3.
Yeah, so it's just so
My point is
you
this.
don't.
Oh, go ahead, Carm.
And I guess you don't. I never played the Morrowind games because they just all look boring. They look like they'd bore me to tears if I played
I
them.
mean, they're PC
You're not.
titles. Like, you have to be really into playing PC RPGs with weird control schemes to really like Morrowind.
Yeah, I can see that.
You know, if you want to get into into playing a good Bethesda title, I would say play Daggerfall Unity, which is kind of like a nice little segue to a side topic. You can go on GOG and get Daggerfall Unity, which is a Unity open source remake of the original Daggerfall that has all of these plugins you can download for Daggerfall Unity to make it into a better modern gameplay experience. Um, and you can literally visit parts of the world in Daggerfall, like other provinces, other cities, other like you go to a capital, it feels like a city. There's tons of people in there. There's tons of buildings. How the fuck could they make a game in 90, I want to say 94, 95, that had a bigger world and more shit going on than today? That's embarrassing. But that's Bethesda. Bethesda's constantly moving backwards with a lot of their games.
'Cause the problem is lighting, better textures, better animations. Which let's not even talk about Bethesda's animations and and facial models and character models, but um, that takes up a lot of resources, and they haven't quite figured out how to balance that with the actual living, breathing world.
I think they never figured out how to
Do-
balance that with a living, breathing
Or
world.
or or maybe they don't want to.
I think it's a combination of they don't want to and also they don't have the technical prowess to pull it off. Because, like I said, you play The Witcher 3, and they managed to create a living, breathing, or at least give the illusion of a living, breathing, fantastical city. And I'm going to say another developer that managed to create what felt like a living, breathing, fantastical city. Go and play Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah.
When you first go to the capital, and you go to that capital, yeah, they don't have tons of NPCs running around, but it feels lived in. The city feels like people are doing shit. Like business is getting done. Shit's happening. Then you go and play then you go play Skyrim, and it's like, there's nothing here. Like you go to what's supposed to be a capital city, and there's like maybe 30 people living there. And with a straight face, they're like, this is the capital of Skyrim. For real. A major trade hub. Also a military hub where basically the Imperial Legion like moors their ships. And you only have 30 people at the fucking in the fucking city. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Modern Bethesda, folks.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's keep it moving. So yeah, overall I'd say yes, Starfield looks kind of like shit, and I'll probably get it, but it's gonna be a year before I get it. Like it's gonna be next year. A year after next. So like 2024 when I get Starfield. Next,
Pick it up for $30.
well, I mean, it'll probably be on sale, or if you have Game Pass, it'll probably eventually come on Game Pass. I'm definitely getting on PC so I can mod the shit out of it. Like, just put a lot of mods on it, because why the fuck would you play a vanilla Bethesda game? That's just stupid. I know some people, I like Bethesda games. Well, okay, good for you, but I've been playing Bethesda games for years, and I would say from Oblivion forward, you should never play a Bethesda game just vanilla. Always be modding. ABM, always be modding.
Yeah.
Don't ever not mod a Bethesda game. Anyway, let's keep it moving. Next topic. Why gamers need a union. Oh, sorry, developers. Developers need a union.
Yeah.
Recently, seeing all the shit that's come out at Activision and EA and Ubisoft, if they're ever like the people are like, I don't want. Well, I would rather have games get pushed back 6 months to a year and have a better product and have the developers not be losing their minds while making the games, than just be like, I want my games now, and the game comes out and it's a steaming pile of dog shit, which is what we've been getting. But that's my own personal opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I would like to see these games get pushed back and come out when they're ready. And the problem with a lot of these companies is they only rely on they rely on they rely on
Contract workers?
yeah, not contract workers, but they rely on one game to get them through the year.
Oh yeah, they don't diversify.
They don't have a catalog that they diversify with. So
like if you're Activision Blizzard, World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, you're EA, Madden, FIFA, and you cannot only have. That's like having a sports team where you only have 2 good players.
Yeah.
And everyone else is just mediocre at best. Like, what if one of your 2 good players gets injured? your whole team is fucked.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like Steve broke his toe. Oh Lord, not Steve. The season is shot to hell.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is this: you know, gamers, especially with the shit gamers have been doing, they definitely need they dearly need a union. And I'm glad more studios, more developers are like the testers over at Ravensoft are unionizing, and they should be able to unionize because the shit those people have to go through is like, I mean, it's a like if I'm surprised I haven't heard of a developer coming in and just going postal.
Yeah.
Because if I had to deal with people treating me like that, I mean, I'm not saying I would get violent, but I definitely would be very irate. You
Yeah.
know, I'd be like, these people are just bastards, and I hate them all. Eat shit and die. But what do you think?
Yeah. I also think something has to be done. Um, can't keep going on the same way that it's been going on for the past few years.
I agree. I agree. I 100% agree. This something has to give. You can't continuously have workers being exploited. I mean, even though the U.S. economy was built on exploiting workers, first with slavery, and then with sharecropping. It's always been about, oh, we're gonna keep these people's wages artificially low so that they can do a massive amount of work and get paid nothing or peanuts for it, and then we'll take that and make a lot of money with it. Um, and I mean that's basically what's going on in the games industry. I mean, these developers get paid shit wages. Even if, okay, let's say they make three figures a year. They're not making 250, 300, 500 million dollars a year. They might make 120. And if you're in
Yeah.
California, that's like making 120 in the DC metropolitan area, New York City. That's not a lot of money to live on if you live in those
No.
places because it's expensive to live there. Um,
Yeah.
so they're making a little bit of money, just enough, and then they make a game that makes like two, three, $4, $5 billion in revenue, and they get none of the profits. None of it.
Yeah.
No profit sharing. No credit. Not a percentage of the profits. Just good job. Go make us more. I mean,
Yeah.
you can be a slave. You can be treated like like a slave or a low wage worker without you doing blue collar work. You know,
Yeah.
it's not just, oh well, I'm not out there picking tomatoes or strawberries or spinach. It's I'm doing something else. Doesn't matter if you're being paid low wages or wages that force you to come into someplace you fucking hate working, and
Yeah.
like you're not being like people. The upper management is treating you like shit. You don't get any type of profit sharing. You don't get hell. Those people don't even have a say on. They can't even take the IP that they create that might have made the company billions of dollars. They can't even take the IP and go someplace else with it, even though if they created it.
Yeah.
That's sad. That is fucking sad. Even comic
Yeah.
book writers have more say over their work than fucking video game people. It's sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
But anyway, uh, so we're at the end of the cast. We've covered the topics that we wanted to cover, that I wanted to cover, that were on there. Um, we're in the unpopular opinion and free topic. Anything you want to bring up? Free topic.
Uh, um, I'd rather have a game that looks like a PS2 or PS3 game that has an intricate world, like an intricate world building, and you know, might be either really, yeah, just intricate world building or intricate CPUs. Um, also, also, I wish these people that are making these open world games focusing on stop focusing on the size and focus more on like the
The
what you can
depth.
do in that world.
Stop focusing on size and focus on depth.
Yeah,
Like how much, how deep can you make that world? Like, I agree with you. I would rather have a world that is maybe not like maybe the size of a small island, but you have a lot of shit on that small island, and a lot of intricacies and how different factions work with each
yeah,
other and around each other and interact with each other, and individual characters and stuff like that, than a whole lot of just bullshit. I agree, 100%. No ifs, ands,
yeah,
and buts about it. I 100% agree. My unpopular opinion will go after my quick free topic. Here's the free topic. I am not a huge Dragon Ball fan, but I'm really looking forward to Dragon Ball Superhero, or Dragon Ball Z
yeah,
Superhero. Because for one thing, it doesn't star that piece of shit Goku or Vegeta.
yeah,
And I know people are saying, why is Goku a piece of shit? Goku's a piece of shit because he's a terrible father.
yeah,
Like, I always knew intellectually that Goku was a piece of shit, but what cemented it for me was in the Frieza saga, the Namek saga, where Goku. You know what caused Goku to go Super Saiyan? It wasn't that Frieza almost killed his son. It was that Frieza killed his best friend Krillin. Now,
yeah,
I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Okay? I wouldn't want to see my best friend killed. But if someone tried to kill my child, I'd be way more mad about that than you trying to kill my friend.
yeah,
But, Goku's a shitty father. Um, like an absolute piece of shit. But we all know who Gohan's real father is.
yeah. It's Piccolo.
It's Piccolo. They need to have that one day where like Gohan's hanging out with Piccolo, like, yeah, whatever you say, Dad. I mean Piccolo, because Piccolo really
Yeah,
is more of a father than Goku is.
yeah,
Piccolo actually trained him how to fight. Um, Taught himself reliance, all that type of shit. Goku just basically kind of just dicked around and did his own thing because he's Goku. I really do. I once again I go back to I really do think they should have gone with the original plan for GT. That would have been Gohan and Trunks, um, which basically would have been that whole like these two sons of like two of the strongest warriors that Earth had ever seen, stepping out of their father's shadow and becoming their own men. That would have been a really interesting story, but instead we got that kind of shit story in GT. Which the story itself wasn't bad. It was the execution was kind of shit. But that's my own personal opinion. I guess it's time for my other unpopular opinion, or my unpopular opinion segment. Here's my unpopular opinion. I think that even though I talked a lot of shit about Final Fantasy 16, the trailer actually looked kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was like, this looks kind of iffy, but then that fucking trailer, I'm like, this trailer looks kind of cool. So, you know, that's it. That's all I had to say. Anyway, that's the end of the cast. Anything you want to pimp out, Kenoshi, before we move on? Before we close out?
Project Console, Tuesday nights, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time.
All right. This is Mr. Red Fox, underproprietor BS Busters. Thank you for joining the cast. Just a little bit of news. My schedule's changing. My career is changing. A lot of stuff is changing. So, for the time being, for the next month and a half, 2 months, I will continue to have a podcast every Wednesday. But after that, I probably will. My schedule's going to change. So, but despite my schedule changing, I will try to have at least one podcast a week. Maybe two, depending on what my schedule is going to look like over the next few months. So, just letting you guys know, there's going to be some scheduling changes, but the channel will go on. Peace. That's the end of the podcast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you're notified when we're about to go live. I might start a Patreon for the channel. Maybe. I don't know. I'm definitely going to try and start a Twitch channel in connection to the channel, but that's a time. That's something for later.